This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, hi guys. Let's continue wherever we left off in Spark structure streaming. So let's start our discussion today with understanding how to perform the word count operation by using Spark structure streaming data frames. So I'm launching my PyCharm. So I'm going to start from the scratch. So I'll go to my project view on the left hand top corner, and then you can right click, say new. Let's click on this folder here. So click on new Python file, Spark structure streaming. Let's say word count, and select Python file. So first step is, as usual, to create a data frame, create a Spark session first of all, because we will not have Spark session. So I'm going to create a Spark session here. So I'm going to create a Spark session by saying Spark session. So you have to import this, place your mouse pointer and import option. Then you can just say dot builder dot app name. You can give any name. For now I'm giving as password consuming word count dot. Then you can mention dot master. You can set it as local, and then you can say dot get or create. This is what is required to create a Spark session object. Then I would like to create a streaming data frame. Let's say stream df equal to Spark session dot read stream dot format. We would like to read the data from a socket, hence I'm mentioning dot format socket. Then you have to pass on the various options that are required. So I would like to pass the host name, which is nothing but local host, and dot option mention the port number. So you can mention the port number. Let's say 1234 is the port number. Then mention dot load. So this is what is required to create a streaming data frame. Let's break it down into multiple lines. Always make sure the dot comes in the next line. That's how we follow it in the same in the projects. And then you can try to print the schema of this data frame name dot print schema to see the different column names and the respective data types. Then you can start printing the same stream data frame. You can just say dot write stream dot format. We would like to write the data into console, hence I'm going to mention the format as console dot start. So you can assign this to a variable, let's say streaming query, and then you can start this by saying streaming query dot await termination. So this is what is required, right? And then let's actually go ahead and try to run this code. But first step is you have to start your git bash. Let's start the git bash here. So then I'm going to start ncat space hyphen lk 1234 enter, and then I will right click anywhere and then say run this. So guys, you can see batch 0 is showing up, and also you can see that it contains one column called as value, right? And moreover, if you observe in the code, we are trying to print the schema of whatever data that we're getting. Look at line number 16, we are trying to print the schema. So the schema is it contains only one column called as value, and it is of string type, right? Now you can actually start printing your data. Let's say I wanted to pass hello, right? you should be able to get the same output. You can see that you are getting output as hello. So the goal is very clear. We wanted to get the word count program done. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to, you understood that we are going to get a column called as value and it is of string type. So the first step is I'm going to split the data that I'm going to get. So let's just split df equal to stream df dot select, and split function takes two things as input. First one is nothing but the column name. Second one is nothing but the delimiter. And you can see that it is showing as red color for split because we have to import it. Place your mouse pointer and click on import option and then say import. Then you have to mention the column name is value and the delimiter or separator I would like to use is space. Right. So let's try to print the schema of this as well. Dot print schema, and we will try to print the same data frame name at line number 21. Right. So let's try to rerun our code once again. So guys, you can see the column name is showing us split value of and everything, but what we are more focused is sending the correct input. I'm sending hello world as an input, and you can see that because we are trying to split the data, so at line number 17 I'm trying to split it based on space as the delimiter, and we're getting a list or as an array as an output. You can see here array of strings, but one thing which I would like to fix here is the column name. Instead of having this generic name, so I would like to have the column name as words. Let me try to stop my code and then try to fix the column name. Let's say I would like to use dot alias. Let's mention letters. Let's mention it as, let's say, words. Let me try to run it once again. This time I'm going to enter the input as hello again. So now you can see the column name is showing us perfectly fine. The column name is showing us words after giving an alias here. And then I can pass the input as well. Let's say hello again. Now see the output. Now you can see that it's all giving me array of strings, right? So what else can be done? If you remember, if you have the data type as array type, then you can apply explode function here, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to stop my code. Then I'm going to explode it. So here I'm going to mention explode df equal to split df dot select, apply explode function. Now explode function just takes only one parameter or one input, just the column name. So here we're going to take the column name as words, and we have to import explode operation. So place your mouse pointer and click on import option. That will be automatically imported. Scroll little up, you can see that split and explode both are imported. So then we can try to print the schema of this, and then we'll try to print the data as well. So let's try running the code once again. So I can see batch 0, I can start pushing some data. Let's say this is December. Let's try this. And you can see the expected output. So it's taking the array of strings and then it's giving you all the individual words as an output. And you can also see the column name is showing as call, and also see the schema it's showing as string type. And that's what is expected. But one thing which I would like to fix here is not a generic column name such as call. I would like to fix the column name by saying dot alias, let's say word. Now let's try to run it one more time. So now the column name is looking better. I wanted to send some data again. Hello there. You can see the column name is showing us pretty much fine, and also you can see the individual words as well, right? So let me stop the code, stop the application, and I'll also stop this. So we are able to see the schema. So what else? So how to get the word count done? So once you have this, you have to apply the grouping and aggregation mechanism. Let's say aggregated df equal to explode df dot group by to group it based on each and every word and perform an aggregate operation such as count. Right. So let's try to print the same. So let's run it again. As you can see that the code is failing. What is the reason behind it? You can see that append output mode is not supported when there are streaming aggregations on streaming data frames, right? So basically we have three kinds of modes in Spark structure streaming. We have three output modes in Spark structure streaming. They are nothing but complete mode, append mode, and update mode. So let me highlight it one more time. So we have three output modes or three write modes in Spark structure streaming: complete mode, append mode, and update mode. So by default, the mode is append mode. So basically, only the new rows are getting appended into the result table. So there is one limitation, is nothing but, so whenever you try to perform the aggregate operations, so using append mode is not supported, right? You can see that append mode cannot be used if you're trying to perform an aggregate operation such as count. So, and you must be wondering, so we haven't mentioned anything here in output mode. So if you don't mention anything, the default mode is nothing but the append mode. So now I'm going to explicitly mention the mode. So you can say output mode. I'm going to mention it as append. So now also you should see the same output, same error basically. You can see as expected it's giving you the same output, right? So default is append mode, and append mode doesn't work if you are performing the aggregate operations. So let's try using complete mode, where this is going to consider the entire data. So let's go back and slightly modify the mode to be complete now. Now let's rerun the code once again. This time you should not see any failures. So you're not seeing any failures, but one observation you should do here is it's taking a bit of time, right? I'll tell you the reason why it's going to take time. So you can see that it took some time, but it's giving me the expected result. So you can see word and then count. So let's do one thing. Let's try to basically push some data. Let's say hello and then world. So let's see the results. So it's going to take some time. I'll tell you why it's taking time, and I'll tell you how to fix that as well. But let's wait for some more time to get the output. You can see it's taking a bit of time now. You can see that as expected, it's saying hello is occurring once and word is occurring once. But what is the reason why it's taking time? The reason is whenever you're trying to perform a wide transformation such as group by, it will use 200 shuffle partitions by default. So I can show that. What I can do is I can just say print spark dot sql dot shuffle dot partition. So let's try printing this value. So then you'll understand it better. So by default, it will use 200 partitions. So let's say spark dot conf dot get is something that I have to use to print this value. So I'm trying to get the value of this respective property, and then I'm trying to print the value. So you should get the output as 200. So let me run it once again. So guys, you can see that as expected, it is giving the output as 200 here, because whenever you're trying to perform the wide transformation such as group by, it will use 200 shuffle partitions by default, and it will slow down your job if your data is not so huge. Hence, we can try to reduce it as well. Right? Because now we are clear that it's using 200 shuffle partitions by default, it is slowing down the things. So let's do one thing. Let's see how to set it to a smaller value. Let's say I would like to change it to 3. How to do that? You can do it immediately after your Spark session object creation. Spark session dot conf dot set. Then you can use the same property. Spark dot sql dot shuffle dot partitions. Default value is 200, but I would like to change it to 3. Now, even at line number 25, whatever you are trying to print now, that should also give the output as 3, because it will just use only 3 partitions to shuffle your data. Let's run it once again. Now you can see it's giving you the output as 3, right? And this time your code also getting executed faster. You can see I'm immediately seeing the batch 0. So I can again print, let's say, hello there. You can see hello is repeating once and there is repeating once, right? So let's do one thing. Let's stop this, and let's stop this also, and we'll start from fresh. So you have to stop it. So then let's start from the fresh, and then I'm going to pass on more input. So guys, you can see batch 0. Now I will start sending some data such that we should be able to understand whether it is doing the word count correctly or not, right? So let's try pushing some data. So remember, the mode that I have mentioned is nothing but a complete mode. Look at line number 27. I'm mentioning the output mode as complete, which means it will work on the entire data. So let's start pushing some data. So to identify it easily, I'm going to send some fruit names. Let's say apple, orange, apple. Right now you can see that I have sent apple twice on orange once. You can see apple is showing us 2 times and orange is showing us 1 time, right? So let's send some more data. Let's say mango and then apple. Now you can see in batch 2, apple is showing us 3, orange is showing us 1, and mango is showing us 1. So you can see that it is showing you the entire data for you, right? So that is what is called as complete mode. It will work on the entire data at a time. So let's talk about update mode. So this is very interesting mode where it works something like upsert. Let me make a note here. So update mode in sparse structured streaming is equal to upsert. So what is the meaning of upsert? Upsert is nothing but update plus insert. That is, update will come into the picture if we are dealing with old records, and whereas insert comes into the picture if you're dealing with the new records. It depends on the data that you're sending. So whether you're trying to deal with the new data or old data, depending on that, accordingly it will take care about updating or inserting. So to show it clearly, I want to stop this application. Top right corner, click on the red color button twice. Change the mode to be update here, and then I'm going to stop this by saying Control C and try to run it once again. And start your streaming dev also. So this time, remember I'm mentioning the mode as update mode. And how does update works? Update works as upsert. Upsert is nothing but update plus insert. If you're dealing with old data, it will update. If you're dealing with new data, it will work as insert operation. So now I can see batch 0. Let's start pushing some data. So first let's say apple, orange, then apple, right? So let's go back here. Now you can see that apple is showing us 2 times and orange is showing us 1 time, right? So let's try some more data. Let's say mango and then apple. Right now, observe the output carefully. Now you can see that apple is showing us 3 times and mango is showing us 1 time. So overall, if you count apple, it's showing us 3 times, right? And orange mango is something that we have sent it in this batch, the current batch. But you're not seeing anything with respect to orange data, isn't it? Orange was there previously, but you're not seeing anything with respect to orange in the current output, because the reason is orange is not a new data and we're not updating anything with respect to orange. Hence, we are not seeing anything with respect to the output with respect to orange, because remember, it will show only the update or insert. Right? Update if you're dealing with old records, insert if you're dealing with new records. It's not showing with respect to orange because the reason is we are not doing anything with respect to orange in this current batch. Let's do one more time. So let's say orange and then apple. So now have a look here. Now you can see apple is showing us 5, orange is showing us 2. The reason is we are sending apple, which is kind of old record. We are trying to have it updated. Hence, or apple is showing us 5 totally. And orange is showing up this time because initially we had 1 and we have one more in this current batch. 1 plus 1 is 2, right? But are you seeing anything with respect to mango in this batch? No, because the reason is we're not updating anything with respect to mango, and mango is not a new record, hence it's not showing anything with respect to that. So that's how update in sparse structure streaming works. It works as update plus insert. It will update old records and it will insert if it is a new record. So this is very important. So this is one of the interview questions. So the interview question is this: how many write modes are there in sparse structure streaming? The answer is 3 totally. And which one is the default mode? Append mode. And append mode doesn't work if you're dealing with aggregate operations such as count. So you have complete mode and update mode. Complete mode takes the entire data into the consideration. Update mode works like upsert operation. So upsert is nothing but update plus insert. So these are some of the possible interview questions. Just be prepared. Now let me talk about something called as trigger, right? So what is a trigger and why do we need it? So trigger in sparse structure streaming helps to decide when to start a new micro batch. So it will often tell when a new micro batch needs to be created. So a trigger is nothing but a signal to the sparse structure streaming that it is the time to create a new micro batch. So trigger and batch interval both are same. So now in this diagram here you can see that the batch interval is nothing but 2 minutes. You can see that the time gap is 2 minutes between each batch. So whatever data that you have within this boundary is called as a micro batch, right? So each dotted line indicates end of a micro batch and start of a micro batch. So totally there are 3 micro batches here because If the trigger time is 2 minutes of time, then whatever records are received within a span of 2 minutes, all those records will be put together to create a micro batch. So because the batch interval is 2 minutes of time, whatever data that is coming in within a span of 2 minutes of time, all that is accumulated and then created as a streaming data frame. So this is also another possible interview question. What are the different types of triggers that we have and what is the default one? So totally we have 4. The default one is nothing but as soon as you get the data, the previous batch is completed. So this is something that we have dealt till now. As soon as you get the data, it will be processed immediately. But now let's talk about the fixed interval, where I'm going to specifically mention the mode, mention the trigger mode, or let's say the trigger time. Always the batch interval or the trigger time must be set only on the output. So here, let me do one thing. Let me break this down. Let me break it down. Dot should go to the next line. And here I'm going to mention dot trigger, and then you can say processing time equal to 2 seconds. Because these are very important. So remember, in sparse structure streaming, you don't get any tricky questions. So these are the basic questions that you get in sparse structure streaming. That is one advantage, right? So they may just ask you simple questions such as, okay, where do you exactly set your trigger? Always on the right stream. And how do you do it? Trigger processing time equal to 2 seconds, right? So let me stop this. Let me start this. Let me start this as well. So as soon as you see batch 0, you can start pushing your data. So one more thing, let's say if I wanted to work on the entire data also, I can change the mode. Let's say I would like to change the mode to be complete. I can do it. Change the mode to be complete and then try to run it once again. So as soon as you see batch 0, you can start pushing your data. I can see batch 0. Let's try pushing the data. Let's say I would like to send some data. Let's say apple, orange, and then let's say apple. Right, you can see the data. So basically the point is very clear. As whatever data that comes in a span of 2 seconds of time, all that data could be accumulated and then processed as a whole. Orange, apple, and then apple, right? So that's how the fixed interval works, right? Fixed interval is something where whatever time that you have set, accordingly the new macro batch could be created. So the default mode or the default trigger is nothing but this. If you haven't set any trigger duration in your Spark job, then Spark will start the next micro batch as soon as the previous micro batch has been completed, or whenever there is a new data in your source. And coming to the second one that we have seen, fixed interval. Again, there are multiple scenarios here. Let's say you have set the fixed interval as 2 minutes of time, and Spark will create a new macro batch every 2 minutes. So if there is no new data in your input data source, no new macro batches will be created. See here, between 84 to 86 there is no data, so no new macro batches or no new data frames could be created within that time. Second scenario is, let's say the macro batch has taken more than 2 minutes of time to complete, then Spark will wait for running macro batch to be complete. Only after that a new macro batch will be created, something like this. You can see, even though it is crossing 82, it will still execute and the new macro batch happens after that point, between 83 to 85. Third scenario is, let's say the micro batch is completing within 2 minutes interval of time that we have set for the trigger. Spark will wait until 82 to start a new micro batch. See here, the first micro batch is getting completed within less than 2 minutes of time. Then Spark will wait until it reaches 82 to start a new micro batch, right? So these are the different scenarios in the fixed interval. Then the third one is trigger ones. So basically, batch runs only one time. So I have seen one interview question here is, how do you convert your streaming job to the batch job? The answer is trigger once, because these are all the valid and real-time interview questions that I have faced and that some of my students faced. And good thing is there won't be much complex questions in Spark structure streaming. Whatever we have discussed in previous session and today's session are more than enough. So coming to the interview question on trigger ones, how do you convert a streaming job to batch job? The answer is trigger once. Or they may ask you, which mode do you set to save your project costs? The answer is again trigger once. So in this case, Spark will read all the data from your input in one shot and process it. As soon as the data is processed, Spark will shut down the job. So this is mostly used by the companies where they prefer the cloud infrastructure such as AWS, Azure, etc. They will spin up the cluster or they will create the cluster after regular intervals of time, and they try to make sure that the cluster is not up for very long duration of time to save the project costs, right? So this mode is used to convert your streaming job to the batch job. Then the last mode is nothing but the continuous mode. It is still in the experimental phase, but once it clicks, it will be really good because the data is processed as soon as it is available. So this continuous mode is, as I told, it's an experimental phase right now. If you are running your Spark job in this mode, then you will see very low latency. That is, this mode is preferred for the low latency jobs. If you want the results to be faster, then what we'll do is we will set the mode to be the continuous mode. But again, it is still in the experimental phase, not yet in the production yet. But chances are there this could be asked in the interviews, right? So this should be more than enough, guys. So I want you to practice the previous session, today's session, because this is really important. Because this Thursday, I am planning to cover a project with the combination of Kafka and Spark Structure Streaming. To understand that project better, we have to practice it. I'll just show you a glimpse of the project. This is the real-time project, and it may look complex for now. Don't get scared. Let me just show you a glimpse of it. So this is the combination of Kafka and Spark Structure Streaming. You can see that this is a huge code, and it will take a lot of time to understand. But if you practice whatever we learned in previous session, today's session, that should be more than enough to understand this project. But that is a prerequisite. If you don't practice it, it will be tough for you to understand. You still have 2-3 days time, so I would suggest you to practice previous session and today's session to understand this project better. Only then you can understand this project. Okay, guys. So tomorrow we will see Kafka, and day after tomorrow we are going to see AWS. On Thursday we will see a project on Kafka and Spark Structure Streaming. Friday we will see the project on AWS and PySpark. So most likely we will try to wrap up our training by this Friday. So that's the plan for this week. Okay. So before wrapping up today's session, any questions? Okay, then let's catch up tomorrow. We will talk about Kafka. Okay, so let's see you tomorrow then.